When Land Rover announced it was pulling the plug on the Freelander back in 2014, it left a rather big hole in the range, but that gap was soon to be filled with this, the Discovery Sport. Now, while it may sit alongside the Evoque closely in terms of price, it's a very different proposition. It's more of a leisure lifestyle SUV rather than a luxury one, and it doesn't have any of those fashionista tags like designed by Victoria Beckham. Look closely and you can tell that it's cut from the family DNA, yet it's more of a car that you'd expect to see doing the chores rather than shouting its presence like the Evoque. Yet it remains one of the most popular models in the Land Rover lineup. Inside, it's typical Land Rover. The layout, the switchgear and even the climate control has all been lifted from the Evoque, which gives it a really premium finish. All the cabin materials are high quality too, which is something that you couldn't say about the old Freelander. Equipment levels are also fairly impressive, with even basic models armed with heated seats, climate control, part leather seats, Bluetooth and DAB. It's only when you get to HSE trim that you get things like electrically adjustable full leather seats and reversing camera. In 2017, Land Rover tweaked the infotainment system, which was no bad thing. That means as standard you get an 8-inch system, which expands to 10.2 inches if you go for the top of the range HSE. Needless to say, it's all very comfortable in here. The seats are very supportive and there's a good range of adjustment on the steering wheel and seat to get that perfect driving position. Visibility is also excellent and you sit quite high, which is very popular in cars of this type. One of the big differences between the Discovery Sport and the Freelander though is the addition of the extra pair of seats in the boot. These can be lifted out of the floor and are really only suitable for children, but still worthwhile having. Boot space is generous with 981 litres with all the seats in place, and this grows to 1,698 litres when they're folded flat. Now, one of the criticisms of the early Discovery Sports was the refinement of the 2.2 litre diesel. That's now been replaced with a 2 litre Ingenium diesel, which is one of the best in class. You can have it with either 148, 178 or 238 brake horsepower, with the lower powered versions available with 2-wheel drive and manual gearbox. Higher up the range there's a 9-speed auto, which is extremely smooth, and you can change the gears manually using the paddles behind the steering wheel. What's most impressive is the way it handles. It's responsive in the corners and body control is excellent for a 4x4. The steering doesn't offer much in the way of feel, but it is sharp and responds well. The only downside is the ride can be a little firm, and you will notice it over lumps and bumps at low speeds. Now this is a Land Rover, which means it's going to be excellent in the rough stuff. As we've seen in other models in the Land Rover lineup, it comes armed with terrain response, which sets the car up depending on the conditions. Also, those short overhangs aren't there for styling. They're designed to help it tackle steep slopes more capably than rivals like the BMW X3. You also get good ground clearance, hill descent control and a wading depth of 600mm. The Discovery Sport isn't a one-trick pony. It does a lot of things extremely well. Off-roadability, check. Cabin space, check. People carrier, check. Build quality, check. In fact, the only criticism that we'd have is while you do get more for your money than some of its rivals, it can be expensive. Plus the petrol engines are thirsty. But if you can live with the ride, which can be a little firm, then there's few reasons to look elsewhere.